Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner? Here on Tales of Home, we retell those moments, honest, everyday, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. The Hudson Valley morning came in low and silvery, the kind of light that makes porches look freshly painted even when the boards have seen 3 decades of rain. I cracked the kitchen window and let in the cold apple skin air. Somewhere down on Route 9W, a semi-downshifted, and the sound rolled through the bare maple branches like a yawn. The coffee maker, Old Bun with a missing knob, coughed once and settled into a steady drip that felt almost ceremonial. First cup black, second cup we'd see. I'm June Whitaker. I've slept in this house on Willow Lane since 1989, long enough to know every scuff on the baseboards and which step complains if you land on it wrong. Hank, my husband, used to call the place our stubborn cedar, like the lumber itself had a mind about staying put. He's been gone 4 years. I keep the kitchen waxed and the checkbook squared and the pantry full of jars with dates on blue painter's tape. If you don't write the date, it doesn't count. Hank's rule, and we kept it. The kitchen lights did something odd when I flipped the switch. Not a flicker exactly, more like a breath. The LED over the sink swelled bright and eased back as if the room were testing its lungs. My fingers prickled where they touched the plate, that little itchy feeling you get when a balloon surprises your hair. I lifted my hand and shook it out like that would fix more than nerves. Don't start with me, I told the light and poured the first cup. The radio on the counter worked itself awake, a local AM station talking about the Sunday night game. Bears by 3, the host said, and anyone with a brain in the county knew better. The voice carried the comfort of a diner booth and a waitress who calls you honey without looking up. I pictured Bluebird Diner already open by the river, steam rising off pancakes, somebody arguing over the tab. The thought put me at ease the way small ordinary things do when no one is watching. I carried my coffee to the back door. The yard was a thin frosted sheet, the garden bed sleeping under it. The Whitaker apple tree, older than the marriage, older than the mortgage, held its bark like a patient fist. A barn swallow strafed the fence and was gone. Peace neat as a folded napkin. When I set the mug down and hit the switch again, the LED breathed twice and steadied. The itch crawled up my thumb. Static, I said out loud, as if naming it sent it on its way. Grant showed up around 8 in his Silverado tires, whispering in the gravel. He rang once like a stranger and then let himself in like a son. Morning, Ma. He bent to kiss my hair and smelled like cold air and a gas station coffee lid. Winter gloves, a hint of aftershave that comes in a Christmas set. He's 41 shoulders, a little too set jaw, working even when he isn't chewing. He brought a paper sack from Bluebird with 2 biscuits and a small container of jam you can't open without a knife. You're early, I said. Crew's pouring on a new site. I gotta be there by 9. Thought I'd check on your thermostat. My thermostat is fine, I said. My light's the one with opinions. He lifted his head toward the ceiling like he could hear what I meant. LEDs are picky. You still like it cold at night. I like to sleep, I said. He set the sack on the counter and moved to the wall where the digital thermostat blinked a content blue. Told you this model was good, he said, tapping the plastic like you tap a fish tank. Smarter than the last one, keeps the bill down. It keeps the house the way I said it, I said. That's what it keeps. Grant smiled, but it didn't travel to his eyes. You let me know if anything's off. I can have the HVAC guy take a look, friend rate. I don't need a guy for a light that's moody, I said. And if I did, I'd call a company that answers the phone with a person. He flipped the switch himself once, twice. The light held steady like a teenager proven right. See user error. He laughed. I didn't. We ate the biscuits standing up because some habits push out chairs. He asked how my heart felt, and I said, like it's mine. He told me about a delivery that didn't show and a supplier who lied and a foreman who couldn't read a calendar. I listened. We do a lot of that, him with the talking, me with the listening, both of us, pretending the one is the same as the other. Lena called, I asked when he paused. Last night. He opened the refrigerator, stared into it like it owed him rent, and shut it. She's fine. Said she might swing by this week. Good, I said. Tell her I've got a box of her college books. Biomedical something. Instrumentation, he said, because he remembers the parts of his sister's life that come with price tags. He took the trash on his way out because he was raised right even when his tanks are low. The Silverado backed down the drive and the radio kept on with its bear's business, and I washed 2 cups and the knife I'd used on the jam. Ordinary. I like ordinary. It stacks right. The doorbell rang at 9:12, a crisp, practical tone Hank installed, so whoever stood on the stoop wasn't a surprise. Through the glass, I saw a man in a navy jacket with a laminated badge clipped to the breast. He stood tall, clean boots, the kind of posture that says a body knows where its weight belongs. Ma'am, he said when I opened the door. Mason Lee Hudson Electric. We're running a recall check on a batch of smart meters in this district. You got the postcard in the mail. I looked at the badge, the face, the card in his gloved hand. It matched in the way official things do when you hold them to the light. I get a lot of postcards, I said. They want me to buy windows or to regret my roof. He smiled without offense. Understood. This one is free. Takes 10 minutes. Sometimes the batch throws noise into the line. Noise, I said, and my thumb sparked at the memory of the itch. I let him in. He wiped his boots on the mat without being asked. Men who've worked a real floor do that. He followed me to the side of the house where the meter sat under a metal hood. He set a case on the porch rail and rolled out leads like a good barber lays out combs. Name's June, I said, because strangers shouldn't be the only ones with names. That light over my sink acts like it's thinking too hard. He didn't look up from the meter. LEDs will tell on a house, he said. They're honest that way. He wrote a number on a folded form. The wind flicked the edge of it, and he put one finger there without looking the way you do with habits. Meter's behaving, he said after a minute. Good news, you're not on the recall list. And the bad news, I asked. He lifted his head and his eyes moved past me to the house itself, following some line a person who knows current can see. He listened with his body, the way a hunter listens to the tree line, the way a mother listens to a child sleeping on the worst night of the fever. You hear a high whine anywhere, he asked. Kitchen, sometimes bedroom, like a mosquito you can't find. He nodded once, not satisfied, just placed. Could be a device throwing harmonics back into your system. Could be nothing. Can I listen inside? I led him through the mudroom where Hank's boots still live and into the kitchen. The LED over the sink minded its manners. The coffee maker blinked, 12 hours because it always has. Mason set his palm near the switch and didn't touch it the way you hover above a dog you're not sure wants to be pet. He closed his eyes, listened. From somewhere under us, low, thin, and too polite for pride, came the kind of whine you feel in your teeth before you admit you hear it. It climbed a half step, fell, climbed again. The itching in my thumb woke up like it had been told to. That I said, quiet because the sound made small voices seem correct. Yep, Mason said, just as quiet. He angled his head toward the register, toward the floor, toward the wall behind the fridge. He moved once around the room like he was measuring it with a string stretched between what was and what should be. This meter's fine, he said, opening his eyes. Your house isn't. I straightened old habit of backbone in Sunday dress. Meaning what? Meaning something downstream is talking when it shouldn't. He looked at the floor again, then at me. You got a crawl space or a basement? Basement, I said. Hank's shop is down there. He nodded. Mind if I take a quick look? I won't touch a thing. Just listen. I set my coffee down and wiped my thumb against my palm like I could rub the itch out through skin. If you can tell me why my light breathes, I said you can look at anything you like. He tipped his chin once, a promise made to a thing that doesn't keep time. I'll be quick, he said, and waited for me to lead the way. The basement door stuck like always swollen by 100 damp summers. I put a shoulder to it, and it sighed open on the first try the way stubborn things sometimes spare you in the morning. The switch at the top of the stairs clicked, and nothing answered. The bulb down there has been dead since Easter. Mason touched my sleeve. Leave it, he said. I brought my own daylight. His flashlight came on in a clean white column that made the dust look like slow snow. The wooden steps remembered our feet, each one with its own voice. Hank used to tell guests which tread to skip, then laugh when no one could manage it. I took them careful, one hand on the rail, polished glossy, where hands have negotiated with gravity for decades. The air below had its basement blend cold concrete machine oil, a dampness that wasn't wet so much as patient. Hank's pegboard watched us come down every outline around a missing wrench like a chalk drawing of a crime. The workbench was exactly as he left it, and exactly as I keep it, a tin of roofing nails, a coffee can full of screws that will not fit anything you own. The sound Mason had named whine harmonics noise lived down here as something almost shy. It threaded through the furnace's sheet metal and softened around the water heater, then pooled in the corner behind the HVAC plenum like a current snagging on rock. Mason moved toward it slow as if the sound could spook. He crouched near the ductwork, ran the back of his hand along the return, not touching anything alive. The beam of his light followed a gray cable that didn't belong. You learn what belongs in your own house without studying it. This line was a stranger that dressed like a cousin. It ran out of the main panel in a way the panel did not endorse, dropping behind a short wall Hank built to hide the uglier pipes. Mason eased his light past the plywood. There it is, he said, not triumphant, not surprised. It sat on a shelf of 2x8s. Someone had just cut the ends still raw blonde. A black box the size of a shoebox with a smooth face and a sticker that said something about power conditioning in a font you see on televisions and discount windows. 2 slim leads left its side. One went to the panel with a clip that would make a licensed electrician weep. The other disappeared up through the joists in a neat hole drilled where neat holes do not help you. What is it, I asked, and my voice came out thinner than it had upstairs. Looks like a line conditioner, he said. Looks. He set the flashlight on the floor so the beam threw long and opened his case. From it, he brought out a non-contact tester and a little portable spectrum meter the size of a paperback. He did not touch the box. He held the tester close. It chirped, then settled. The meter came alive with a soft blue screen and a dance I did not understand. "I'm not here to scare you," he said without looking up, "but I am going to be plain. Something in this enclosure is riding your power and talking back into your house. The way it talks doesn't look like anything a person should sleep on top of." The itch in my thumb upstairs, it had been a coin you rub without noticing. Down here it was a slow match. I pressed my palm to my apron just to have somewhere to put it. "Grant put in that thermostat," I said, as if thermostats and boxes knew each other. He said it'd help the bill. "This isn't thermostat work," Mason said. "Whoever installed this wanted it to blend with thermostat work." He shifted the light and traced the neat hole up into the bones of the house. The beam swallowed the joists and landed on a thin copper ribbon tacked along the underside of the subfloor. "It snakes like Christmas lights you don't want anyone to see." He followed it with the light to where Hank's chalk line still marks the center of the room, then a little beyond, then directly under where my bed sits above us. He didn't touch the ribbon. He didn't have to. What lives above a thing tells you what a thing means. "How long has your light taken to breathe?" he asked. "A week," I said, though if the truth came in labels it might say longer, maybe 2. He nodded once, filed it somewhere, returned to the box. The little meter showed patterns that made sense to it. He watched those patterns, then watched my face, then watched the patterns again like they might confess. "I can't tell you how you feel," he said. "I can tell you this line is carrying bursts it shouldn't. Short ones regular enough to be on purpose. A house will make its own mess, motors, dimmers, cheap chargers, but it doesn't make that." I looked at the panel with its tidy breakers Hank had labeled in a careful hand. "Kitchen, living up, bed, down hall." The new tape someone else had added read "conditioner." The handwriting did not belong to our house. I heard my voice ask a question with good manners. "Is it dangerous?" His eyes met mine. "It is not for you," he said. We stood a moment with that. The furnace kicked on, and for a second the other sound hid. When it came back, it felt closer. Mason lifted the light to the joists once more, then shut the meter and put it away. He did not reach for the panel. He did not make a show of anything. He clicked off the flashlight and clicked it on again like a person marking a page. "June," he said, "I want you to pack a bag. Essentials, medication, papers, phone charger. Leave the house like you're going to the store. Lock the door behind you. Don't announce it. You can come back for anything that isn't worth your life." "You think I'm in danger from a box?" It was meant as humor and landed as a stone. "I think you're in a house where a stranger line has been run beneath your bed," he said. "I think whoever did that expected you not to notice. I think we shouldn't reward that assumption." I looked at the shelf with Hank's coffee can and the pegboard with the ghosts of tools and the floor with the chalk line that once meant where to put the Christmas tree so it wouldn't block the vent. The weight of belonging and the idea of leaving tried to fit in the same space and failed. "All right," I said, and the word felt like a step down you can't see but know is there. He didn't follow me up. "I'll wait in the kitchen," he said. "Do what you need and come back down the hall like you forgot your list." In the bedroom, I opened the cedar chest at the foot of the bed and found what knew me the folder with birth certificates, the small blue wallet with insurance cards, the bank key on a ribbon. I put my medication in a zippered pouch and slid the second pair of glasses into my pocket, because the first pair behaves right up until it doesn't. I took the photograph from the nightstand of Hank, standing with the Whitaker apple in its full spring dress blossoms like paper cutouts around his cap. I laid it face down on the quilt as if it needed privacy, then slid it into the bag. At the linen closet, I reached behind the folded towels for the envelope with a cash-stuffed apology to my father for saying cash was an untidy habit. I took only a part of it, then took a breath, and took the rest. In the pantry, I thumbed the coffee can with the screw collection for luck and left it because luck works better when it isn't asked. The mirror did not have an opinion. My hands did not shake. They went about their business and let the shaking wait its turn. Back in the kitchen, Mason had erased himself to the corner near the back door. He watched the yard through the glass the way you watch a field for a deer you aren't hunting. He handed me a card with a number that was not the company's main line. "Hudson Electric," he said, almost apologizing for the pretense. "That rings me. If anyone calls asking where you are, they shouldn't know." I nodded and my head remembered to be steady. Where should I go? I stopped myself. The question was too big for the next 10 minutes. He answered the smaller version. "Library's good," he said. "Phones die quiet in libraries. Folks mind their own business. Sit near a window if it helps." I put the strap of the bag on my shoulder and wrapped my scarf twice without remembering to. He opened the back door and the cold stepped in. The apple air felt cleaner than it had an hour ago. On the path, I remembered my gloves and he remembered them for me. He waited while I went back, then waited while I came out, as if the waiting were part of the work. The drive to Maple Ridge Public takes 5 minutes if you catch the light at the River Road. I caught it. The librarians had seen my face for 30 years and gave me the nod reserved for neighbors who returned books on time. I chose a table by the big front window where kids make paper turkeys in November and seniors do taxes in March, and placed my phone screen down as though to pin a butterfly. Outside, a school bus hissed and the day kept happening. Among the stacks, a man in a Carhartt jacket whispered a laugh into his collar. The only noise near me was the soft complaint of the radiator waking a little too late for the weather. My thumb still remembered the itch as if the house had sent a souvenir in my blood. I pressed the edge of the library card into it until the feeling broke. On the card under the town seal, someone had written Maple Ridge in pen that had bled, and I traced the letters without moving my hand. Mason's name glowed on my screen once, then went dark. I turned the phone over, put it atop the folder, and watched a girl in a red sweater shelve returns like setting bones straight. The room smelled like paper and winter coats and pencil shavings that live in old book bags. It was a good smell for thinking. At the door, the bell gave its small polite ring when someone came in from the cold. I let the sound pass through me and reached the quiet on the other side. Then I sat up, squared the folder again, and let my breath take the shape of the room. The library's heat came up with a clank and a sigh, the old cast iron trying its best. I sat where the morning made a square of light on the table and laid out what mattered: folder, phone, extra glasses. The quiet was civic paper turning shoes soft on carpet, a child sounding out the letter B to a patient grandmother. I let my breath match the room. Mason's name lit the screen. I took the call with my voice low. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm sitting with a book I'm not reading," I said. "That works." He exhaled, not tired, just deliberate. "I'm back at the house, parked a block away." A pause, then the workman's courtesy again. "You gave me permission earlier to listen and look in the basement. I'm documenting. No touching." Body cams rolling. "Do what you need," I said, and the words surprised me by being steady. He didn't perform surprise or worry. He narrated reality. That black enclosure, its face says power conditioner. The interior says something else. I can see the seam where the sticker hides the original plate. I'm not opening, but the lines in and out tell me what it wants. I heard a small chirp from his meter and paper moving against wood. Cereal scraped. Clip on at the panel that doesn't meet code. Copper ribbon glued under the subfloor. That ribbon tracks true under your bed frame. The library smelled like pencil shaving and snow in cuffs. I pressed the side of my thumb. "I sleep there," I said, and had the odd sense of hearing myself from the outside. "It's a poor location for your health and a clever one for interference," Mason said. "Pulse timing looks intentional, duty cycles tight." Plain English would have been kinder. I respected him for giving me the truth bald. "Can you see who installed it?" I asked. "I see fresh 2x8 cut for a shelf. I see a receipt half sanded off in someone's pocket, figurative speaking. Keep me 1 minute." He moved the sound of a light beam shifting against ductwork. "There's packaging tucked behind the plenum. Shipper label Arcadia Systems LLC Millbrook. The carton's been knifed flat, but the ink took." Another beat. "And June, there's a composition notebook down here, blue marbled cover, half under a coil of Romex. Not mine to open unless you say so. It's your house." I closed my eyes, once opened them, to the neat print on the spine of a reference book in front of me. Electrica Code, New York State, 1987 to 2020. I imagined the blue cover with its mottled skin and school kid sturdiness. "If it's on my shelf, it's mine to see," I said. "Tell me what you see. Don't bring it out." Pages whispered through the phone. A thumb creased a paper corner gently, as if kindness could transfer through cardstock. "Handwriting neat," Mason said softly. "Diagrams, timing charts, abbreviations DC, RF, BPM. There's a header box D phase, under it a list of dates, nights. Notes about wake 213 palpitations, wake 3. 48 dizzy. None of this is ambient house noise. Somebody's logging responses like they'd log feedings. He didn't use my children's names. He didn't have to. I pictured Lena's notebooks from high school, how she drew small squares to calm herself and wrote in a straight line even without a ruled page. I put a finger on the folder and kept it there. "Grant changed the thermostat," I said halfway to myself. "This isn't thermostat," he said again, every time the same measured refusal. "June, I'm going to stand quiet a minute. I can hear upstairs. I'll stay on the line." The library clock ticked in a decent public way. The radiator clicked its steel knuckle. Outside the window, the crosswalk flashed. Its white little man and a woman with a wool cap guided him across. My phone pressed warm to my cheek. Footsteps faint through Mason's mic worked across my kitchen floor. A chair moved careful. A voicemail low came through mud and wood like a voice through a river's surface. "She's jumpy," the voice said, and the laugh after it was a yawn sharpened by coffee. "Saw the van earlier, too. Thought she'd start something." A second voice, softer and precise, close enough to my ear to make my skin crawl, though she was miles away. "Then we finish and it's quiet. Tonight." Mason didn't breathe for 3 seconds. He didn't need to tell me to be still. The instruction had arrived in my bones. He let his phone hang open and be an ear. Trip main clean, the male voice said. No marks, just a neighbor story. The second voice timing's in the notebook. It's already worked. She's been waking. Don't improvise now. Chairs. A drawer. Silver tapping wood. Tap, tap, tap. The sound derailed and then steady again. I could see the kitchen without seeing it. The drawer of forks and long spoons that never fit right, because Hank bought the good ones at a going-out-of-business sale. Tap, tap. Mason's voice came back to me the way people talk in church. I'm safe, he said. I'm still. I can hear them above the return. My scalp hurt where my hair met my head, as if it wanted a way off. I swallowed. It scraped. Grant and Lena, I said, and heard the names as if they belonged to someone else's life. On my table lay the library's copy of Quieting a Noisy House. The title made a private joke of itself. I reached for the folder and opened it because opening something is what the body does when it can't open the world. Inside the deed with Hank's careful medium point pen. The bank key. The little stack of savings bonds that smell like attic heat. Paper behaved. People didn't. My phone buzzed with a new text while the call still held. I looked down Lena. Where are you, Mama? A friend's coming by later. Should I put the kettle on? The words sat apple sweet on the screen. I thought of tea and then of wrists and then of strings under floorboards. I typed errands, library for a bit. The 3 dots came in eager train. Then library is good. Fresh air after. I'll drive. Tell me which door to meet you. I didn't answer. I let the dots arrive and die out. Mason again lower still. They're leaving the kitchen. I heard a shoe drag the old rug caught under a chair, a door. The minute changed shape. They think you're out, he said. I'm staying put. Bodycam has time-stamped audio and the basement equipment is in frame. A small click I'd already learned was him tapping his meter's capture button. June, I'm going to text you photos now. You forward them to whoever you trust in uniform. Sheriff Pike, I said, because Hudson Valley towns keep names at the edge of your teeth. Good. His voice returned to its ordinary size. Hang up so I can send them. I'll call back. We cut the call. The photos arrived hard and square, the black enclosure with its lying face, the clip-on at the panel, the copper ribbon stitched neatly to joists, the blue marbled notebook open to a page where symbols marched in Lena's tidy script, a torn cardboard panel with Arcadia Systems LLC printed in faded ink and an address in Millbrook. I laid the phone flat and took pictures of the pictures with the second pair of glasses on, which is a little ritual of mine when the first pair refuses to make sense. I felt ridiculous and competent at the same time, which is how 63-year-olds cross new streets. I scrolled to Sheriff Darlene Pike in my contacts. We'd shaken hands once at a ballot line. I heard her voice now like a coat hung on a solid peg. Pike, she said. This is June Whitaker on Willow Lane, I said, and stated what needed stating in the fewest words that still fit. Basement equipment disguised as conditioner, copper tape under the bedroom, photos, audio of 2 voices planning a trip Maine, my permission for entry, my location, my willingness to write it clean. She didn't waste me with questions she didn't need. Text the images to this number, she said. I'm at the substation. I'll acknowledge receipt. Keep your phone up. Stay where you are unless your safety changes. You don't have to. I began and stopped. She hadn't offered comfort. She'd offered procedure, which was better. I sent the images each with a small caption in plain words. Basement enclosure, panel clip, copper ribbon under subfloor, notebook with D-phase header, Arcadia label. Her acknowledgement arrived back punctually. Received. Saving. Stand by. No drama. Just verbs. Mason called again. I'm out of the house, he said. Street's quiet. I emailed the audio file to myself and to a department address your sheriff gave me. I didn't touch a thing, June. I didn't want the argument later. Thank you, I said. Did you see the notebook page, he asked, and I could hear his face aim away from the sympathy toward wall stud steadiness. The March dates line up with your doctor visit for palpitations. I didn't remember mentioning the appointment. Then I did. I had mentioned nothing. The calendar on our family wall had kept the ink. I breathed once, then once again. A new message lit the screen, a different number. The words were neighborly and wrong. We can bring groceries, June. Cold out. Tell us what you need. Then 2 seconds later from Lena's number, milk bread. I'm at the market. Don't walk on ice. I'll swing by the library. The library's big front window reflected me, and then the street, and then me again. A woman whose face I know walked past holding a bag of oranges against her coat. She looked like someone holding a small son to her ribs. I couldn't feel my thumb anymore, which felt like mercy. June, Mason said. The line carried the gentle weight of a hand placed near nod on. You doing okay? I'm counting oranges, I said. Good way to spend a minute. A man on the other side of the stacks let out a small laugh at something on his screen and covered his mouth like he was in church. The child and grandmother returned a book to the bin with a soft clunk. The radiator went quiet because it had done its job and could rest for a while. I opened my bank's app because paper had told me what it could. My password marched across the tiny glass field. Statements lined up like fence posts. There, in the monthly run, 2 payments within 30 days to Arcadia Systems LLC amounts that read as serviceable, not cheap, not wild labeled maintenance. I had not set up maintenance with anyone named Arcadia. I took screenshots. I cropped the bank account number out the way we're taught to now. I sent those images to Sheriff Pike with the one-line captions, unrecognized vendor, 2 charges, description maintenance. Received, she texted back, logging, thank you. I turned the phone face down and put it on the folder again. The square of sun had moved on the table as if someone had pushed it with a careful palm. My hand went to the locket I wasn't wearing because it catches on scarves. I pressed nothing and felt better anyway. The child at the next table said the letter C like it was trying to get away from him, and then laughed when he caught it. The grandmother patted his arm. The doorbell made its small, polite ring, and a draft traveled the floor to our ankles and stopped there civilized. My phone vibrated once more, not a call, a text that didn't bother with the sugar. We can see your car at the library. Come out. I read the text twice. We can see your car at the library. Come out. And let the letters lose their trick. The screen dimmed on its own timeline. I turned it face down and felt the table through the folder as if wood could vote on sense. Sheriff Pike called. No greeting, no throat clearing. Ms. Whitaker, I have your images and the audio. Do not engage with any message you're receiving. Are you alone at your table?
Yes.
Good. There's a staff door in the southwest corner by the genealogy shelves. It opens to the alley. Do you know it? I do. You'll walk to it as if you're returning a book. Take your things. A Hudson Electric service truck will be at the alley mouth. Driver's name is Mason Lee. I have him on a patch with my office. You'll get in passenger side. Our units are in motion. Stay on the phone. Her voice made the room square up. I slid the folder into my bag, stood and adjusted my scarf because hands need small jobs. The radiator made one last click. I walked past the children's table where a paper turkey waited for someone to glue on its last feather. The staff door looked like something that had never been new, painted, repainted, and painted again with the color called This Will Do. Outside, the alley held its winter shade. At the end, Mason's white service truck idled orange light bar dark. He leaned across and popped the lock before I reached it. Sheriff Pike's voice was still in my ear. You're doing fine. In you go. I climbed in. Mason didn't look at me first. He looked at the mirrors, checked the corners, checked me second. Morning, he said as if this were another meter in another house. The truck smelled like tools and fresh coffee and the clean plastic of laminated work orders. Ms. Whitaker is with you, the sheriff said through his phone and his dash at once. Hold west on Court, then south on County 2, drive normal. Copy, Mason said, and eased the truck forward. We rolled past the library's front windows. In the glass, I caught a flash of myself and didn't recognize the set of my mouth. A silver pickup turned from Maple onto Court 2 cars back, then fell in casual behind us. I didn't say its color. Mason saw it. The small changes in his hands told me. We took County 2 the way you do when the road's been there longer than your name. Past the feed store, past a flag on a porch that hangs winter stiff, past a pasture with sharp hooves puncturing frost. My bag strap bit my shoulder and felt useful for doing so. 2 units are setting a control point at Substation C, Sheriff Pike said. Approach normal. Do not draw attention. Copy, Mason said again and rolled the truck steady at 5 under. The silver pickup stayed 2 cars back when it could 1 when it had to. The river ran its slow brown beside us, and on the far bank a heron lifted as if someone had cued it. At the intersection near the substation, the road narrowed where the county never widened it. A chain-link fence held the field of Transformers' gray boxes humming in the key a town learns to ignore. Ahead, 2 sheriff's cruisers angled at the far shoulder with their lights low, no sirens. A 3rd cruiser idled hidden behind the scrub oak just past the gate. Maintain, Pike said. When you clear the entry signal right and pull to the gravel, interior unit will block behind you. Mason clicked the turn signal, the sound domestic and calm. He slowed, put 2 tires on the gravel throat, and let the truck lean into it. In the mirror, chrome flashed. The Silverado edged out to pass, then thought better of it and checked up short. The 3rd cruiser slipped from the oak and took the lane behind him. The lights came up blue and red and blue, washing the fence in color like a parade you didn't plan. A deputy stepped from the 1st cruiser with his palm lifted. Mason cut our engine and put both hands at the top of the wheel as if he'd rehearsed it for years. I kept my hands in my lap, open the way you do when you want the world to see you listening. A voice on an external speaker, cool and amplified. Driver of the silver Chevrolet, put the vehicle in park. Hands where we can see them, both occupants. Through the side mirror, I saw the Silverado's brake lights flare, then hold. Grant's hat brim rose above the wheel, then his hands, then his face turned toward the instructions like he could make the words change by looking at them hard enough. Passenger side Lena's profile was a small pale cliff chin, set eyes forward. "Doors," the speaker said. "Open, step out, and keep hands visible." The driver's door opened. Grant climbed down with his weight held high in his shoulders the way a man carries a couch by himself. Lena opened her door like it would break if she didn't. 2 deputies moved in, one each. The first took Grant's wrist and turned him to the truck bed with a flat efficiency stolen from factories. The second did the same with Lena with a courtesy that refused to be read as weakness. Mason's phone clicked and Sheriff Pike's voice shifted from traffic to room. She was there now. You could hear the gravel under her boots. "Ms. Whitaker," she said in my ear softer, and then not in my ear at all as she came to the passenger door and bent to the open window. "You okay?" "I am," I said. Truth fit in those 2 words. She nodded once and moved past us to the Silverado. Hands behind, she told Lena, and the cuffs gave their small private sound. Grant's metal answered a second later. He started to explain something about groceries and about concern and about confusion. The words stepped on each other until they fell. Pike let them lie. Another deputy reached into the Silverado cab with a gloved hand and placed items on the bedliner one by one, naming them as the body cam watched. Portable inverter, spool of copper ribbon, compact relay box with hand leads, notebook blue marbled multiple entries. He paused. Bag marked Arcadia Systems empty. A small plastic bin with tools followed crimpers, a utility knife with a fresh blade adhesive tape. Pike angled her body so her mic caught the litany. All items visible on video, photograph placements, then bag and tag. She turned to me again, not close enough to crowd close enough to be the size of a person, not a roll. "Ms. Whitaker, do you recognize either of these individuals?" "My son Grant Whitaker," I said. "My daughter Lena Whitaker." "Thank you," she said, and nothing extra. She walked back to them. "You are under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy," she stated in a voice that did not need to grow. "You have the right to remain silent." The rights walked out in their full names, each word its own boot print. Grant's jaw worked like he was trying to crush something between his teeth. "She's sick," he said. "She makes things up. She's been confused." Pike didn't look at him while she wrote a case number on a paper label. "You can put that in a statement," she said. "Save it for after the cuffs." Lena turned her head, the motion precise as anything she ever did at a lab bench. "That equipment is legal. We were conditioning the line. The house is old." "Old houses get a lot of blame," Pike said, and nodded to the deputy with the camera to pan the panel of the substation fence where a sign warned high voltage in a font that never learned to whisper. "You can discuss your theory with your attorney." Mason hadn't moved. Hands on the wheel, eyes forward. He breathed the way steadiness breathes. I could see the tendons in his right hand quiet under skin. "Ms. Whitaker," Pike said again at my window, checking the place where my voice met the day. "I'm going to have a deputy drive you to the substation office where it's warm. We'll take a brief recorded statement while everything is fresh and then get you home for what you need. You won't be going in alone." "Home," I said, because the word still belonged to a specific roof, even when someone had tried to teach it a new meaning. "For items you choose," she said, "nothing more." Behind her, the deputies worked. The portable inverter went into a labeled canvas bag. The copper ribbon was coiled more neatly than it had arrived. The blue notebook slid into a clear sleeve, its cover looking suddenly like a child's work in a world that wasn't for children. A tech took swabs from the relay box's edges and sealed them as if he were putting away very small sandwiches. Grant tried a new tactic and failed it. "Mom," he called. I didn't turn. He called again, louder. My name shortened to a sound he used when he was 5, and sorry and wanted a cookie anyway. The deputies adjusted their grip and made space between voice and ear. Lena didn't call me anything. She looked at the coil of copper as it disappeared into the bag, then at the fence, then at the loose sky beyond it. She had always hated unfinished assignments. The horizon didn't oblige her. Pike gave the smallest nod and a cruiser door opened. The 2 of them were placed inside Grant, first Lena after. The doors closed with their expensive hollow thud. The light bar color washed their faces and stole all the temperatures from them, leaving only values. "Escort to County Holding," Pike said into her shoulder. "I'll follow." A deputy in a brown coat came to my door. "Ma'am," he said, and the word had no sugar to rot it. He opened the back door of our truck so I could step down without finding the ground first. My boot slid on the gravel and found purchase anyway. He held the substation office door for me, and a square of heat came out to meet us. Inside the office was all metal desk and coffee smell and calendars with tractors. Someone had left a half-solved crossword. Mason stepped in after me and took the chair by the wall without being told. He folded his hands in his lap like he was sitting in a church he respected without attending. A dispatcher slid a paper cup toward me. It tasted like every office coffee since 1978. And did its job. Monsieur. Sheriff Pike came in, last brushed a leaf from her coat sleeve without looking at it, and placed a small recorder on the desk. Name and date, she said to the room, and then to me, when you're ready. I gave what I could give without embroidery. Basement and box, copper under floor, itch and thumb, photos and audio and names. She didn't hurry me and didn't slow me. When a sentence needed a second try, she waited for the better one to arrive. When we finished, she clicked the recorder off and capped her pen. We'll get you where you need to go, she said. We'll keep a deputy at the house while you get your things. Through the window, the cruisers eased out one by one. The light bars lowered, then went dark as they took the curve. The chain-link fence went back to being just a fence. The transformers kept humming, indifferent and exact like they always had. I let my breath land in the room and stay there. The substation office coffee cooled to a skin. Paperwork stacked into tidy gravity. A deputy drove me back to Willow Lane with the sort of quiet that leaves you room to breathe. He idled at the curb while I unlocked my own door. Inside the house waited like a paused sentence. We took only what I named. The folder from the cedar chest, a week of clothes, the quilt my mother pieced in 1972, the one with red stars that never fade. Hank's blue thermos because it holds heat in a way that feels like a promise kept. The deputy stood in the kitchen and looked everywhere except at my memories. When I reached for the photograph of Hank by the Whitaker apple, he reached for the frame with one finger so the glass wouldn't slip. We didn't touch the tools. We didn't touch the bed. At the bottom of the basement stairs, I stopped and put my hand flat on the door. The itch that had lived in my thumb didn't answer. The house was honest once and would be honest again, only not for me. I locked the door and slid the key into an envelope marked with the street number and the word transfer. The deputy carried out the last box and balanced it on his hip the way a father balances a sleeping child. At Hudson Electric the next day, I signed a statement Mason had typed without adjectives. Dates, times, the way circuits sang when they shouldn't. He set a non-contact tester on the corner of the form, a bright yellow pen made to say yes or no. Keep it, he said. It's simpler than worry. I laughed once in that small room and heard how it sounded like water finding stone. The charges moved the way charges move in a small county, steady, visible, economical with spectacle. A week of search warrants and bagged evidence. 2 weeks to a grand jury. The courtroom in late March smelled like old varnish and wet coats. Grant wore the gray suit from Hank's funeral. Lena's hair was pinned the way she used to for lab practicals, precise and unforgiving. They sat without looking back. The blue notebook lay in a clear sleeve on the prosecution's table, open to a page where lines and numbers kept their calm. The deputy who had named each tool at the pickup bed named them again for the record. Mason testified like a man building a short deck square level, each board flush to the next. Sheriff Pike didn't overreach. She let the camera speak. She let the timestamp stand. By April, there were pleas. Grant to attempted murder and conspiracy, a number of years that fit the statute and the county's appetite for mercy. Lena to a lower count, her counsel saying words like undue influence and fear and leaving out words that didn't help. The judge spoke in the cadence all judges learn. The clerk wrote neat. No one in the pews clapped or cried loud. We folded our coats and went home. I didn't keep the house. A realtor brought a young couple who walked the rooms like they were learning a long name together. The wife put her palm to the dining room wall and smiled at something I couldn't see. We closed in May. I handed her the envelope with the key. She asked about the apple tree, and I told her when to prune. The move up the peninsula took a day and a half with weather kind and traffic reasonable. The place I found in Door County sits 2 streets off the harbor, half of a yellow duplex with a narrow porch and a mailbox that bites if you're careless. The town doesn't know me yet, which is a favor. I bought a small easel from a thrift store, scrubbed the tin of old brushes until the water ran clear, and set the canvas where the afternoon finds it. The first night the heat clicked on and off with a square workman's rhythm. The refrigerator hummed like an honest machine. I lay in a bed that hadn't learned me yet and listened to the lake folding itself against the shore. No whine reached through the walls. I slept until the light reached my face. June in the north opens with lilacs that don't apologize for themselves. I walked the short block to the bait shop because they sell milk that is always just this side of cold, and someone had pinned a flyer to the corkboard for a rummage sale with the promise of clean items, so surprises. The owner's beagle whitened at the muzzle, thumped his tail under the counter, then climbed out of sleep 1 inch at a time and put his chin on my shoe. He wasn't mine. He acted like he had a vote. On Sundays, I bring him a corner of my toast, and he pretends he doesn't care until he does. Mason came once in July. He parked in front of the duplex and looked at the lake the way men who have served look at water counting without counting. He set a brown paper sack on my table, tomatoes from a neighbor of his who plants in long straight lines the kind of rows you could use to teach a child what true means. We ate them with salt we pinched from our palms. He didn't say the word case. We talked about nothing with the ease of people who have both earned it. When he left, he checked the porch light by habit and caught himself and grinned at the foolishness. The beagle slept through the whole visit, which felt like a civic blessing. I paint in the late afternoons. Small things, mostly porch rails, the shadow a dock throws at 4 o'clock, a plastic chair 2 houses down that fades the same way every summer. The brush remembers the stroke even when my hand doesn't. On the window ledge, the yellow tester pen sits next to the jar of turpentine like another tool of the trade. I haven't needed to turn it on. In August, the mail brought a thin letter with a thick seal. The clerk had sent a copy of the restitution order and a note in decent cursive asking me to confirm my address. I wrote back in my own careful hand and kept the envelope for my files. The pen made a sound on the paper I could trust. I go to sleep before the gulls give up and after the last tourist finishes arguing about flavors at the custard stand. I leave the window cracked when the wind is friendly. It moves the curtain the way a hand moves a page. The sound it makes through the pine is a long, low thing that belongs to the place. I listen until I don't. The lake keeps time. The house breathes the way houses ought to, no more, no less. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.